Okay, it's 6 p.m. and we get started. Oh, wait, another one that is coming. It's like the door, the door. It's like one ringing at your door and you need to open the door.
My door are open already.
I like this. I like this sound. It's like the bell ringing. Okay, here we are. So as I was saying, it's 6 p.m. We start on time also because Zoom has dictated somehow a new timeline. So we need to stick to 40 minutes and that's the time that we are given. Another person coming, amazing. So let's get it started. Welcome everyone. Welcome Maha, first and foremost. Thanks for taking the time to partake this first public talk that has been organized by the Fun Arts Center and Sheikh Abdullah Salman Cultural Center. For those one who do not know me, my name is Claudio Gravero, and I am curator at the Fun Arts Center at the Sheikh Abdullah Salman Cultural Center. I'm extremely glad to launch this online artist series tonight. With this talk series, our aim is to foster the exchange of ideas among creative artists and the local art community, as we are now gradually phasing out of the lockdown period. This first series will shed light on 4 among previous and current artists that were and still are part of AIR, the Artist in Residency program hosted and promoted by Sheikh Abdullah Salman Cultural Center. With Maha Alasaker, she's the first artist that decided to break the ice and open this talk series. We will be discussing issues that are related to today's art making, especially during the lockdown, current resources, and future and further opportunities. First and foremost, she's gonna describe and highlight how she embraced the lockdown as a challenging time and learning time of self-discovery for herself. Before introducing Maha briefly, let me check again. Sorry, the door is ringing. Have people coming? Before introducing to Maha, I want to just to wrap up the sequence how this talk is being designed. As we said before, we only have 40 minutes. This is the Zoom dictated time. We're gonna have 30 minutes conversation with Maha, replying to a couple of questions or highlighting her practice and the lockdown and the post-lockdown, post-curfew. And 10 minutes at the end will be left for questions. So please use the chat to send the questions that we're gonna read at the end, or eventually you can unmute yourself like Lubna, you were about to do, and you can ask directly the question live. Maha Alasaker. Maha Alasaker is a creative artist, as you know. She has an engineering background, but she embraced photography studying in the United States. In her residency program in 2019 at the Sheikh Abdullah Salman Center, she developed a photo-based project dedicated to the concept of beauty across the Middle East, which is now part of the collection at the center. We are very proud of that, that piece that has entered the collection. However, over time, Maha has also introduced in her practice different media, including embroidery and textile technique. So Maha, now the floor is yours. And the first question that I have for you to break the ice during this conversation is that, what were you working on prior to the lockdown? Which major changes or struggles you had to face? And I can see actually that you're working in your bedroom, so which I guess is this, and I assume this is the first step for you during the lockdown to shift your studio, and also whatever happened that significantly changed your practice, like availability of materials and so forth.
Thank you, Claudia, for the introductions. Basically, my life was shifted. I used to live in New York City for 6 years, and I decided to come back in September. So I was already trying to adjust from like being abroad to a new place, having like figure out studio and, you know, getting familiar with my own place, and then the virus come. And with that, I was like, okay, there was no information. There was a lot of fear at the beginning and we didn't know how to deal with it. So I needed to shift all my stuff from the studio that I just created and bring it all home. And because of the space and because I'm here, my bedroom, I mean, which is now, we are inside my bedroom became my studio. my textiles. I do everything in this room. I spend almost like 70% of my time here. And I also I usually don't have a desk. So I ask my mom if there is like extra desk, which I am using now here. I use my vanity, which is like, I mean, it is almost here. And instead of my makeup and stuff, I just took everything aside and kept them as a storage for my tools. I also shifted medium. Since I couldn't photograph. I wasn't feeling photograph, and I had so much feelings. Uncertainty. I'm a very anxious person. I'm diagnosed with anxiety and slight depression. So being in a confined space for hours wasn't easy for me. So I was trying to create a space to digest what's happening, introducing new mediums. So I start experiment with drawing. I start to buy material from online, like watercolor, markers, paints, fabric, paints. What I did also, I bought some stuff from my embroidery. So I was using different kind of discipline, and I'm just reflecting instead of controlling, instead of thinking about it. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's been overwhelming for you to leave first and foremost your studio to create your space that is like your sacred shelter in your own apartment, being apart from your family, but at the same time isolated to be productive. Is there anything that you can show us of what you were doing before and then you started actually doing when you were under the lockdown? You said that you had very difficulties and challenges, most importantly, how to repair, to supply your materials. And if I'm not mistaken, you ended up also producing some colors yourself because there was no access to other suppliers or shops where you could buy it actually.
So what I started to do is to create a new, you know how like us, we are very productive and we always need to produce something. All of a sudden we are inside. So my work is like as a photographer and stuff, like communication with the world, I cannot do it. And I realized that I was controlling so much. So I start to write the things that I enjoy doing, which is embroidery. I mean, you can see some of these mini projects that really helped me in, like sense of purpose, sense of, doing things. So I divided my day into small projects, small accomplished. So at night, I will feel like I'm doing something. It starts off drafts, then, so these are like watercolored and then embroidery. And I did like maybe 20 or 50, I don't know, I was doing one every day. I call them a human. It's not a woman, it's not a man. It's just us as a soul without identification or labels. Another things I was doing too is playing and testing with natural dye. I use the avocado, and I also use soya milk. So these patterns, I draw them first with soya milk, let them sit for a week to sit, and the proteins goes there, and then I start to create the dye from avocado pits and skin, and create these beautiful pattern. It's very, very slow process. It takes time. And I feel like staying home with unknown, the definition of time start to change for me. I don't think I ever been present in my life like now. Us as a human, we always like thinking about the future or thinking about the past, the things that we regret, the things that we miss. And we always want to feel and be present. I tried so many exercises, so many things. I never been present because that's all I have. We don't know when we will get back to normal and what is normal. So yeah, time and understanding what is time was one of things that, how can I use the time to create things or play instead of controlling process and thinking. So these techniques, I use the Shapori Japanese technique, but I wanted to use them with natural dye. So that one, the one that I just showed is pomegranate skins. And the process of waiting and seeing the result and failing and fixing things, like that's part of it. I mean, yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that you brought up a very new subject also in your research, starting following and tracking time, staying there in the moment and just waiting for the color to appear on the textile for printing. Lubda, I'm sure she's going to have some questions for you afterwards about printmaking. She's an expert in that sense. Oh, wow. She's taking notes. Amazing. Actually, there was something that you shared with me that was very private, in the sense that the lockdown, like for everyone else, affected us not only professionally but also personally, and you needed to face not only what you said before, your anxiety as a feeling or as emotion, but as at the same time also some overwhelming experiences that reminded you to the past. Before getting there, you said that this feeling of being out of place or self-isolated, because you self-isolated yourself within the isolation that lockdown somehow forced to be for all of us. And many artists I know that accuse it brain fog. They started suffering from mental anxiety and even creative block. So they were not, especially in the beginning, able to create despite the huge, large amount of time that they had on their hands to produce. Someone else also started suffering from stress from social media or Zoom fatigue, because it requires lots of attention to stay all the time on a screen. How did you leave this part, being present on social media, digital community versus the physical one that unfortunately got absolutely eliminated and erased during the lockdown?
I feel like for me in the beginning, I was excited that, you know, this lockdown, because I also experienced the Iraq invasion. So I was like, oh, I'm lucky now. I can talk to my friend abroad. I can, you know, see what's happening in the world. I'm involved. But after like 3 days, I started to feel like sophistication. I couldn't breathe. I was overwhelmed. I was anxious. I couldn't see anything. I literally, after a week, I stopped all social media. The only things that I was looking at was Instagram, because I carefully curated my followers. So the one that like they will not be posting rumors and information that will stress me. I even like told my mom that, can I leave the family group chat in WhatsApp? And she was like, no, just silence that, don't leave. She didn't allow it. So I listened to Mama Key. So I put myself there, and then I discussed it with my family that I cannot listen to rumors and, you know, reading messages. And my mom understood, and she told me that I cannot like shut the whole family for you, but what you can do, avoid us when we gather there. So in a way, I self-isolate myself in my room and to deal with an anxiety, because an anxiety, I had it since I was young. I used to struggle with it where I usually, you know, fight it. Now I have tools to deal with it. And one of the things that's helped me to process is, I mean, this is like really huge. So this is, so this is altered book. I switched the cover. So this is used to be this. Okay, so it's written Hudu twice, quiet, and these are one of the faces that I used to, like the human, dyed, embroidered. This book is an altered book. I use one of my books from university and from engineering, and I respond to it. So this is like kind of, I think I will start. So this is kind of self-portrait. I started this on March 24th. Okay, I might be like kind of mumbling because I don't talk much, so this is a bit weird. So it's kind of like a journal. So it's a journal, it's a daily journal. Altered book is having existing book and kind of break it, respond to it, create things. You don't follow an order. It's you can do whatever you want. You can cut, you can do collage. Some of the work I go back and forward toward it. I want to show you one of these things. So these are kind of like how I felt or what I read. So this is like, let me see if I can do it. It's a huge. So these are. So I found I was reading something about female body because that's something I am interested in, and I read something said like. The society deal with women sometimes as an object and sometimes as an a human. So المرأة شيء, المرأة شيء وشخص. So these are like orchids, leaves, hand embroidery. I picked the broken one and I fixed it for the female, for the woman. And to make this journal, I used existing materials, anything in the house. Why orchid? Because that's the one that we have in the house and I could use. I also played with photography and drawing. So I will print some of the images and then draw and create something else. I mean, it's a huge book. So this is me, and then I try to play with it. It's like a 450 pages. Wow. And the book used to be like 1/3, so I needed to break the spine and build it again. I was checking this book every day. I even have, don't laugh at me, I have logged in where I will write the dates every day. I thought I'm organized.
Actually, Maha, that's very interesting because first and foremost, it's funny somehow that you didn't throw that book away. You didn't trash it when you rejected all your engineer background and you embraced photography, but you kept it somehow close to you. And now he came handy for you to be restored as a journal for your under your lockdown. Yes, so you can show us here.
This is, I'm not sure how clear, but these are the logged in. The one you see in red, that's when it is a lockdown. So I'm keeping like kind of mental memory of what is the day and what's happening, because everything became very fluid and I couldn't tell what is what. Yeah.
Correct. I want to go back to what you said because you mentioned about your self-isolation and also that this lockdown somehow brought you back to the Gulf War, which you lived as a young teenager back then. In which aspects of this lockdown did you find emotional similarities with the one that you faced when there was the Gulf War? And how do you cope with it? We saw that you started your journal, which is not a written journal, but it's journaling with images and whatever materials comes on your way to be worth of recording. So in which sense, which are the similarities with the two lockdowns? How you lived the one when you were a young teenager and the results of today's lockdown?
I mean, when I heard about the lockdown, not the lockdown, about the corona and that they shut down the work, I went back and I opened this. I was like 12 during the Iraq innovations, and I do remember my mom asking me to do like a daily journal. And I mean, it's very private. I was 12. There's nothing like really.
It's beautiful.
Like I woke up, I ate this, I felt this, I heard this bump. And you can see at the beginning, it was like colorful. And then I started to just write without anything with one pen. So I decided to do another journal. But when I started writing, it was so hard and I couldn't, so I resisted. And then I shifted to the altered book. But for me, having this experience is just really, it was a comparison between the Iraq invasion, the war that I lived, where in the war, there was evidence of what's happening. We were hearing the bomb. We were seeing like the army outside. We were hearing like people were killed. So there was a lot of violence around us. During that, there was no place to feel things. We were in survival mode. I had like my younger brother was 1. I was the nanny. I was taking care of his because my mom was in the kitchen. I was ironing. So we were in a surviving mood, where now we are inside the house, but the virus is very silent. There is no evidence. There's only information. And the difference also between the information now and before there was no internet and there was no TV. So the information that we will get is very selective, like because the men were only the one that go outside. So my dad would come and we would hear some of the things were filtered for us as a kids to hear. Whereas now there's like tons of information, tons of rumors, tons of theory, who created the corona. All this information is a lot to deal with, and sitting inside the house and not feeling the violence of the virus. And that's something I'm very interested in, about the physical versus, the emotions and the difference between this and that.
Sure.
The journal really helped me to be focused, to respond. I got a lot of ideas because I was using different mediums I didn't do. I was mixing, I was weaving images. So it was kind of my place to play instead of, oh, this is my next project and this is the artist's statement. It's just like a space to just be and, reflect without any goals.
That's the reason why you told me, and you titled this conversation like the challenge and the resources behind the lockdown were for you a sort of new self-discovery for who you are and being present as a human being and as an artist at the same time. That's really impressive. I really like this transition. And you also said that there was a great learning curve or a turning point in your career because you were dealing with some photography before the lockdown, but due to the lack of materials or the availability of materials around, you started using very concrete material, something that was tangible in your house. And you said that at one point when the lockdown got eased and the curfew was opened up, you were able to go outside and touch the sand on the beach, and you felt that feeling of being sinking with your body, with your hands into something that was the sand, something concrete. You decided to incorporate also this tactile, tangible experience in your work production that it was absolutely somehow rejected or denied before because everything was filtered via the screen, via digital, by the camera. Is that correct, right?
Correct. I mean, the lockdown was very hard in everybody, but during the lockdown, I also shifted my sleeping hour. It was Ramadan, so I was not seeing the sun. I was inside my room because I couldn't deal with anything. So I just wanted to deal with the feeling that I had. And after the lockdown, it was very hard for me. I knew that the first things I want to do is touch the sand. I love nature. I need to be surrounded by nature, but sadly, our home, we don't have a backyard like it used to be when I was young. But it was very hard for me to leave the car. I went to 4 beaches till I was able to leave the car and go outside, because I will go and there's so many people and I freak out. And then I went to the second one and the third one. And when I went to the fourth one, it's like, okay, there's only half an hour. So it's 10 minutes here, 20 minutes to go home. So there is this kind of separation and then an anxiety and then reconnection. And I still feel the sand. I even took some of these sand, put them in a Ziploc, right where I took them and why. I also collect sand and rocks. I collect everything. that has textile. And I'm interested in nature and how to repurpose, reuse, because I feel like I came from a culture in Kuwait where it's very material, and people don't think about waste because they can afford, like, alhamdulillah, we have a lot of money, but that doesn't mean that we can buy and waste things. So I'm trying also, even with my new practice, like using the avocado skins, the pomegranate skins, and using things that came from nature and try to redirect people toward these kind of things and connect with it.
That's awesome. Well, to boil down, if there was one thing that you could forget about the lockdown and just let it bygones, which would it be? And on the opposite, if there is something positive you would like to take away, what that will be?
I mean, I feel like I'll talk more about the positive because, you know, I think everybody has their own, you know, turn down. But like for me, it's about understanding how to feel the feeling and, you know, to label them and accept them. Like sometimes I wake up and I'm just not feeling good and I'm upset and I'm angry. I don't feel like I breathe. And I just like, okay, that's how I feel. I know. I'm not sure. I will not draw a smile on my face. I will feel them. I will just find a cozy place, wear something comfy, and watch, maybe binge watching something on Netflix.
Okay.
And the second day, I will be better. So just understanding feeling, less control of anything, less control of my life, less control of my practice. I need to be more intuitive instead of planning, because that's not me. It's work with someone else, but not with me. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of quality time with my family. I struggled at the beginning with personal space because when you live 6 years alone and then come and I have an amazing, big family and kids, sometimes it's overwhelming. Start a communication with someone who has beliefs different than me, which is like my family. So these kind of things I will not do, because when I came, I think I was coming early and leaving the house and come late and with them very shortly. So that's something also.
That's very good. That you learned how to stop controlling your emotions and trying to, let's say, schedule them in a precise timetable, but just let it go for what it is and embrace it. That's a great conquest, honestly. I would be extremely proud if I was you. Definitely. You also told me that this turning point during the lockdown was your notion of success. You were so obsessed with success or being successful before, to have this social pressure to overproduce your work. And now you have kind of make peace with the word success. And then what is success now for you?
So I feel like success, as you said, it's turned to be a culture, community definition of achieving goals, being that someone point toward you. He's graduated from this place, he made this company. So it's all labeled and staged, and people run toward them, and then the end, why I'm doing that. I think success is more to go inward and look at your inner. Ask yourself a question about who you are now, because you will never be one person. We are fluid, we change. So who you are, what make you feel proud of yourself, what brings sense of satisfaction, and deal with your own demon. Try to be in peace with this. Being authentic is being successful.
That's true.
We as human are a reflection, so we will reflect that to people, and the community all will change just because of that. So start inside instead of trying to fix the world outside.
That's great. It gives you the sense of agency and responsibility. So to take action and respond to the environment around you by starting from yourself. And it's true that not only in the creative industry, in the art industry, before the lockdown, we were so much under pressure to produce more with less. And I have also the feeling that now we're going to produce less, but with more authenticity and more integrity somehow. The quality will enhance, definitely. The last question that I have for you, then we lead the floor to the questions and the Q&A, is that talking about current or upcoming projects that you have in your pipeline, what you're currently working on, or any new way how to support and sustain your future works?
I really had a good time to think about me as an artist and thinking about, you know, because the other side is like creating work for exhibition will not like sustain my whole life. So I started to think about how can I sustain myself as an artist, and to think about merchandise and what of my things that I want to do it with love and sell it to people. So one of the things that I'm very, very excited about is the natural dye fabric. I am collaborating with my friend, Yusuf. So he's the designer, and we're planning to create a sustainable 100% made from nature, like cottons, like the fabric, the way how it's feel like timeless line. Like one of these, I mean, also that is an inspiration for projects that I'm also thinking about to do, where I'm planning to throw it on shirts and also make them a bit bigger and sell them like a piece of art. Like the artists need to be to know how to do that. I also need to say something about this amazing website Skillshare that I was like binge watching. I learned a lot of tips about merchandising, about embroidery, because I learned everything by myself, like natural dye, embroidery. It's a very amazing platform, very easy. I learned how to draw, illustration, exercise. That was also something I used to do every night, where I will watch like one lesson and sleep, dreaming about what I want to create tomorrow. To keep things simple.
Okay, that's great.
I did, yeah.
Maha, thank you so much. It was so heartfelt and lighthearted, and this is exactly the tone that we wanted to set for this first series of artist talks. Now we are in the Q&A question. I'm going to read some of the comments. There is a question from Dubna that you can ask yourself unmuted. I'm muting your mic. So, I start from our colleague, Nada, from the education department. She said, it's very interesting how the artists use avocado skin and pomegranate skin to produce natural dye. I wish fine arts can host a workshop about that. Nada, we're going to think about it. Nishari Al-Najjar, who is an artist in residency now at the Sheikh Abdullah Salman Center. And he will be the second artist during the talk series. He's saying that he loves the continuation of the journal from the war that you used to take when you were a teenager to the lockdown. So it's a very interesting duality. And then we have Lubna, who is asking a question about Sussex first, and then about the journal. Maybe Lubna, would you like to unmute yourself to ask directly?
I'll keep it short because I know that there's so many other people and I'm quite selfish. But first of all, the thing that I found that was really interesting as you were speaking about the Alter Journal, and you said play, and the word playground it just came to mind. When we talked, when you mentioned success, basically success could be another product for mass consumption for society. Would you agree?
100%.
Okay, very good.
I think yes. Like, and that's something side, but I was talking about it a lot with my family about the education in the world. I feel like the education is a problem because the education was designed because people back then never been to school. No one knows how to write or, you know, learn anything. So that the way how it's designed to educate the human, because there was no library of information. And I feel now the world is different. People are not all similar. I could be good at math and art at the same time. Why studying something else. And because of the education system, the idea of success came, and people start to idolize it. And when they reach like their 30s or 40s or 50s, they realize, oh, I'm middle-age crisis or whatever. It's not. It's them running towards something that wasn't even that like theirs.
I had another question. The fact that you got, it's very interesting that you got back into this very tactile aspect of the dyeing and dealing with organic material that decomposes. Did you feel that there was this mirroring process happening internally? Because as you were, you know, as you were watching this process, how did you feel?
I mean, the textile helped me a lot with my anxiety. I started doing the embroidery because I did a test when I was in the States, and they kind of told me that it might be like, so I was like really worried. I couldn't leave the bed, and I started, instead of throwing my journals and paper, I started to do embroidery. So it was like kind of self-surviving mood. And I realized that that's what I love. My mom was like, organizing the library, and she showed me my my arts when I was young. I used to draw a lot and details, and I was surprised of the things that I was doing. But in between high school and being cool like my cousins or whatever, I kind of like just dropped everything and feel like I'm going back to the basic. And another realization that I found during the time, that my process is more intuitive. I don't like to control things, but I realized that that's what I was doing. Like, I want to talk about female body. This is how I do, and then I add a lot of pressure and I make my process harder. So with the textile, with the natural dye, they're all elements of earth where take you back to your hand, to results, and you know, element of surprise too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maha.
Thank you.
Any other questions coming from the participants? You can unmute yourself. Otherwise, I have still some comments on the chat. Everybody's talking about how wonderful you were able to cope with this lockdown, how challenging actually that was in the end, and you somehow blossomed as a new artist with new resources on your hand. That's really appreciated. I know that many artists somehow stopped even doing and producing works of art. They switched everything into cooking. So now they are cooks. And then what they post on Instagram is like recipes or the dinners, but no more art that is being produced. But that's globally. Also,
that's art. That's people going to textile, because not everybody want to draw or do, or they're afraid of it. So people goes with cooking because it has the same element of embroidery, that you cut, you make, you serve food. People are going back to the basic and being vulnerable. A lot of images of food, I agree with you, but you know, that's a new reality.
Yeah, definitely. But also the MoMA, PS1 MoMA in New York, the artists in residence that got blocked because they couldn't move from New York, they start cooking and then using their kitchen as an artistic practice, if you want. And they were delivering recipes nights on Saturday night, hosting people in their little studio. That was kind of survival mode too. Also because think about the reality, we couldn't get any Deliveroo, Talabat, or carriage. So people needed to start cooking from scratch, and then it was an interesting way how to deal with the lockdown. We have the last question by Noura Ali. She's saying, "Hi Maha, I have a question. Noura Ali, please unmute yourself and go ahead for your last question."
Yeah, I'm also seeing my sister.
Yeah, that's true.
Some sweetness. I love you, Haneen, and I'm always proud of you. She's like one of my strong women in the house.
I know. Noura Ali wrote it down. So, how important to you is to find to join to the art community? Because usually people define success with how many galleries you've been in, and she disagrees anyway.
Well, I feel like the art is like making art. It's for you, and then and then it's your choice, where do you want to put that art? Not every art is supposed to be in a gallery. And some arts land itself in social media, some arts lands inside the house, and some of them with institutions like exhibition. I tend to think about it more about what I'm doing and who's my audience. And that's the conversation I have with myself, rather it's like being obsessive, having it at one place or another. So having a community, it's beautiful. I always make sure that I have community of artists around me. I like to have artists that have different disciplines than me, because that creates a communication. And I don't know, success is not about the galleries, it's about the effect of your work toward the people and how people are responding to it and the impact of it. That's how I define it.
Okay, that's good. It's more about to be accomplished yourself, rewarded yourself for what you do, and then the public recognition comes. It can also stay there for a while before coming, but it's only complementary. It's more about you, what you do. That was an amazing conversation. Thank you so much, Maha, again, for taking the time to be there tonight with us. And thank you all for participating so lively. The next event, the next talk for the Artist Talk series will be on June the 30th with Mishari Al-Najjar, current artist in residency. But at the same time, please follow us on social media for other events and talks that will be hosted by the other museums at the center. Follow us on Instagram. We know that our social media account is AskKW, so ASCCKW. And the last part, the talk is being recorded. We are gonna probably share it on our social media to have it for anybody that couldn't be with us tonight. Thank you so much once again, and let's meet soon.
Thank you so much, everybody, and thank you, Claudia. Bye-bye.